The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Pat Scott. Hey, Pat.
Hi.
Before we get started, our topic today, I want to tell everyone about a show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Star Wars. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Star Wars. So today we're talking about some of our favorite productivity apps. Last time we talked about our favorite communication apps and mostly email and messaging and those sorts of things. This time we want to kind of broaden the field to more productivity apps that kind of fit into a couple of different categories. So things that help us do our tasks and projects, calendars, our contact management, note-taking, knowledge managers, which is a whole nother category, which we could probably come back to at some point. I keep meaning to, and collaborative workspaces and that sort of stuff, time tracking, and there's a lot more. I don't know if we'll get to all of that this time, but certainly this is a deep subject that we can keep coming back to in the future. And what we'll do is we'll talk about the things that we use and that we like, and then other ones that are out there that you might also consider, especially if we have any knowledge or background with them. So let's get started and talk about to-do list managers, project managers, task managers. They call it different things. And for me, I've mentioned it before, OmniFocus is the one. My life runs out of OmniFocus. This is a hefty tool. I've been using it from the beginning, since it first appeared from the Omni group, and it's got a bit of a steep learning curve, I will admit. It also is based on the basic methodology is based on the David Allen Getting Things Done methodology, where you offload tasks into an inbox, then later on you categorize them according to context and that sort of thing. You don't have to do that. You can. It's very good for that, but you don't have to. It's project and task management based. So if you think in projects, this is a good one for you. It's not cheap. It's a full featured tool, and you have to pay separately for the Mac version. It's Mac and iOS only. So just keep that in mind. You can get a subscription, $10 a month, or you can do the standard license where you buy a license, which is for the Mac only. It's like $50 for the license. And then there's a pro level where you get where you pay $100 for the license, and you pay for your upgrades. Or you can do the subscription, which is $10 a month. And that gives you the Mac, iPhone, iPad, and web versions. So if you are using a Windows machine or a Linux machine, you can use this on the web as well. So that's what I use, OmniFocus. That's my primary task management tool. But Pat, what do you use to keep track of the things you need to do?
A couple of things. I use Do. I think we talked about that recently.
Yeah.
It's a small little app, but it's a quick to-do list. I had tried To Do from Microsoft, and I just kind of lost interest in it. It just was too difficult to keep up. I have had some clients that use Todoist, but I typically stick with the Apple reminders and Do for most of my stuff.
And for a lot of people, that's sufficient. Like, that's one of the big things I tell people: don't overcomplicate your life. Don't try to make your needs fit the tool. Get the right tool for what you need. And for some people, just a list of tasks, a list of things that they need to get done is sufficient. I've tried to get my wife, Melanie, to use different things, and she's like, nope, this little piece of paper that I got is sufficient for me. And it'll work. If it works for you, it works. So Yeah, Apple Reminders is great. It's gotten better over the years.
Yes, it really has.
And the Do app is another one I actually use all the time. And I've mentioned before what its primary benefit for me, and I think for a lot of people who use it, is it nags you until you do the thing. So you set a time when it's due, and then when that time comes, it'll say, "Hey, do the thing." And if you ignore it, it'll come back in 5 minutes and say, "Hey, do the thing," and it will keep doing it until you do the thing or you check it off. But I am very religiously, like, I don't check it off until I've done the thing. You can snooze it as well. Like, look, I am nowhere in a place where I can do this thing. Come back in an hour or 3 hours, and then I'll do it. So yeah, Do is a great little app for that too. Other ones, Things from Culture Code is another Mac one that I've tried. It's very much about design. It's very nice looking, but it's a little too open for me. Like, I need Rails with my task manager. I need
more structure.
Yeah, I definitely need that. And one of the things I love about OmniFocus is it works with AppleScript and JavaScript, and it's very extensible. And I've got it programmed with using Keyboard Maestro, and I can import templates for projects and that sort of thing. Every episode of a show has a template that I store in a different app that I'll talk about soon called Drafts. And then I use a script to bring that into OmniFocus with the right due dates and titles and all that sort of stuff that I fill in at that time. So OmniFocus is my favorite to-do list manager. So let's talk about calendars. So for there's two levels here. There's like calendar as a service, and then calendar software that sometimes connects to that service. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a Mac user or you're an Apple iOS user, you probably have iOS calendars, iCloud calendars. If you're an Android user, or you could be a Mac user or iOS user, you can have Google calendars. And the built-in calendars, like on an iPhone, can access both Google Calendar and iCloud Calendar, or another independent calendar that's just on the phone. And then the other software can do the same thing on the Mac and iOS. And so that's why I use an app called Fantastical. It's another one of these. It's not a cheap app, but to me, it's well worth the price. It's a bit more expensive than other ones. But what I love about it is, they were the first one around the block to give you natural language entry of meetings and events and that sort of thing. And so it parses as you go, like a lunch meeting with Melanie on Thursday at noon at McDonald's or something, whatever. And then, and then you can use, and we'll figure out, okay, the location is going to be McDonald's. Melanie needs to be given an invitation, the times, and does all that sort of stuff. And it does it for you. So that's one thing it does. It also does templates. So, for example, like next time I need to, like Jimmy Aiken and I decide, we're going to record Mysterious World next Saturday. Okay, boom. I just say, use this template and make it Saturday, and it fills in all the rest of the data because everything else is standard in the calendar event. It also does a thing which is really nice that I've had to use third parties for in the past, which is if you're trying to set a date with a bunch of people, you can give them a URL and that's specific to your calendar, and they can and you can say, choose one of these dates and times. Just pick from among this. And so everyone who gets that URL can choose, and then you will settle on one of those times. And until that gets settled, it won't block off your calendar, but it will tell you, like, these are potentially blocked off with an event coming up. So, be careful scheduling for this. So you can do that, and there's several other features like that, and so it's a really great. It's almost like a digital assistant. So Fantastical is great for that. But you could also, Apple's calendar, built-in calendar, and Google Calendar both are pretty good on their own basic calendars for doing the things you need to do, and you get multiple calendar spaces for like personal or shared and that sort of stuff. So you could use them for that too. Pat, what do you use?
I primarily use Google Calendar. I sometimes look at it through the Apple Calendar, iOS Calendar. Also, with both of those, you can, well, actually, with the Apple Calendar, you can connect in the Yahoo Calendar so I can see my husband's calendar over there on Yahoo. And I used to use Outlook, but it's clunky and it won't really easily deal with other calendars like Apple and Google, except in a read-only mode. At least that's what it was doing before. I think they've tried to integrate Apple's calendar in there, but I'm not real happy with the way it integrates it in. So I've never used anything but the Google or the Apple calendar or the Yahoo calendar, basically.
Okay. So a calendar I used to use ages ago, it's still around, it's called BusyCal. This is a Mac OS calendar. And it's very nice. It does a lot of the same things that Fantastical does. Not everything, doesn't have all the features, but it's a powerful calendar. It can connect with, reminders, iCloud, Google, Exchange, Office 365, Yahoo Fastmail, all of these different calendar and reminder systems, and can help you set up conferences with, Google Meet or Zoom or WebEx and that sort of thing, which Fantastical does too. And one of the benefits of BusyCal is you can buy it for $50. It's also on SetApp. So if you are a SetApp subscriber, you already have it. So you don't have to spend an extra $50 to get it. So if you've taken my advice in the past and become a subscriber to SetApp, it's there for you.
One more comment on the Google Calendar. I used Google Mail as well, and so you can either turn on or not use the feature. But like if I have a airplane ticket that I bought through Google, that it automatically shows up in my Google Calendar. The start flight and the end flight are put on the right days. It has more flexibility to say, not spoken. I haven't tried that, but I want to meet with so and so next week at 5:00 or whatever, and it'll take all that and put it into an entry for you as well.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that it can scan my email for things that are appropriate to put in there, but you have to give it permission to.
And that's the nice thing with a lot of the software is it can, like the third-party software can integrate with the Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, and that sort of thing. So you can have the best of both worlds where, you can use your Fantastical or BusyCal or what have you, and still get those features, like you mentioned, the integration between Gmail and Google Calendar. And of course, Outlook, which we mentioned last time as an email software, also has a calendar, of course. Outlook is the business standard software for a lot of people. Its primary benefit being that it works with Exchange, so you can use your Exchange calendars on that. And then if you want to talk about the third leg of the triumvirate of productivity, that's contacts to go along with your calendar and your to-do list, and maybe it's maybe four legs because you got an email is also a productivity tool, but contacts is important because it helps you with your calendaring and your meetings and your email and all that sort of stuff. There isn't a whole lot in this area, frankly, unless you get into CRM, like relationship management, like Salesforce and that sort of stuff. But for basic contact management, you basically have Apple Contacts, Google Contacts,
Yahoo Contacts.
Right. The various email services,
AOL, etc. Yeah.
I feel funny using any of the others other than Apple for me, or Google. I'd be fine with using Google too. Some of the others I worry about when I upload my contacts. What are they doing with that information?
That's correct. Yeah.
So
you don't want Facebook or some of these other, or Twitter or Instagram to get your contact list.
Every time a social media network asks for your contact list, please say no. 'Cause not just for your own sake, but for the sake of everyone in your contact list, because they're not
privacy.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance to say, I don't want to be in that company's system. So so I use Apple Contacts. The Apple Contacts app is okay. It's just okay. Just like Apple's Calendar, it's just okay. So I use another app from FlexiBits, the makers of Fantastical, an app called Card Hop. And it uses a lot of the same natural language processing to do the tasks I need. I can pull up Card Hop with a keyboard shortcut and just type like message Pat, and it will bring up messages and open it up and create a message to you, Pat, and I put my, I'm ready to start typing. So it's really nice like that. Or I can enter a new person and I can, type, email : and type in their email and their phone number and all that sort of stuff. So it's really nice that way. It's really keyboard friendly in that sense, where you don't have to do a lot of clicking around. You can do a lot of typing to get stuff in there very quickly.
One of the things I wanted to mention about Apple Contacts is there is a bug that has been around for a long time, and I have not seen Apple fix it. And that periodically I have clients that all of a sudden the names of their email groups start duplicating and duplicating and duplicating. And I've even seen contacts do that too, but typically it's groups that'll duplicate. I've never seen the problem with Google. And so that's the other reason I use Google Contacts is it has a great duplication merge feature that if I happen to have two variations of the same, I can quickly merge them and not lose any data.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the others, it just replaces it, and that's not so cool.
Yeah, the Apple Contacts you can merge cards, they call them. You can merge them.
Yes.
I've seen the, in fact, let me put it this way. I've had the group duplication problem in the past, but a long time ago. I haven't seen it in a long time on my accounts.
I saw it twice this year.
Yeah, well, I wonder like if it's long-standing accounts or if there's I'd love to figure out if there's a common denominator for why it happens to some people and not other people. It's kind of a weird bug.
According to a lot of the online stuff, they say, well, you've just set up your syncing wrong. You've got too many things syncing it, but I've never found any problem. I mean, I've got one lady that she doesn't do anything but her phone and the Mac. And it's constantly reproducing, 10 copies now, I think, of her groups. And we've tried deleting them and, try to export them out and pull them back in, and it doesn't matter.
I've seen some people suggest that if you turn off syncing and then delete it completely from one of the devices, and so there's only one copy, so export before you do this to save a backup. So there's only one copy, clear it out. In fact, because when you have two devices, it exists in three places: on the two devices and in the cloud. So if you turn it off on the devices and all you've got is what's in the cloud, then that should be the canonical version. So if you clear out what's on the devices, you might, because I'm wondering if there's like a corrupt table somewhere that's saying, oh, this needs to be reduplicated and this doesn't exist here. You need to put a copy here. I don't know. It's just kind of, you'd think they could track this stuff down, but
Well, as I say, since I've never had the problem with Google Contacts, I just decided that I was going to take and move my house over there.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's always an option. Those are the two, I would say, for us, favorites for those. So let's talk about the next category, which is note taking. And notes it can take various forms. And so this category and the category afterward kind of overlap a little bit, but let's quickly talk about note apps. And I look at it as these are places to keep short bits of information that I need to have handy, that they may not even need to be around for very long. They may be ephemeral, or they have other purposes as well. So let me just mention a few of them. So one app I use is called Drafts. I've mentioned this earlier in this program. And Drafts is it's a universal inbox. It's a way you open it up and you're presented with a blank sheet and you can put stuff there. And that's the most basic form. But Drafts, it has a nice way of processing information. It has actions that you can either download from their directory or create yourself if you have a little bit of knowledge of how it works. And so you could do things like I need to, I don't know how I want to send this information. I'm just putting it here for now. And then later on, like, I want to message this to so-and-so. Then I want to email this same information to that person. And you just select different actions and you can send it different ways. So I mentioned I use Drafts as a repository for my templates for OmniFocus. And so these templates are just plain text, but they have certain indicators like for variables. So where dates, due dates, and titles and that sort of stuff go. And there's an action that runs on JavaScript that I put together that when I run that JavaScript, it goes in, asks me to fill in the variables, and then it will import that into OmniFocus, and then run another action that creates a folder on my desktop for that project, or in the computer. So Drafts is as simple or as powerful as you want it to be. It's a really great piece of software. There's a big community that surrounds it of people doing all kinds of things. And even if you don't program or do any scripting, you can Google or look there's a big Drafts directory of possible actions that you can look at. And it can do amazing things just with text. Another one that I use is called Unclutter, which does a few different things. So Unclutter lives at the top of my screen. And when I put my cursor at the very top of the screen above the menu bar, and then on my trackpad, I bring down 2 fingers, it drops down like a window shade to halfway down the monitor. And on the left side, it shows my clipboard history. So the last 6 things I copied on my in my computer. In the middle is a place I could store files that I want to get to, like stuff I might be working on right now that I want to just hang there for a little bit. And on the right is a notepad, and it's sort of like a sticky pad, like where you can write little memos. And I use it all the time when I'm on the phone, or if I just have some numbers I need to jot down, or very brief things like that. And it's a great little. And then when you just scroll up again, and it goes away. And it's out of the way, and it doesn't take up any screen space. So that's called Unclutter, and it's a paid app. You can pay for it. It's also on SetApp, so if you are a SetApp subscriber, you already got it. Of course, Apple Notes is a great option. I use Apple Notes to keep my show scripts for each show. So like when I, my opening and closing scripts for each particular show with the patrons I want to thank and that sort of thing. I also use it. My wife and I use it as a place where since you can share folders, that's where we put our weekly menu that we've come up with for the week. So we all both know what we've decided we're making for dinner every night of the week. So that sort of thing I like Apple Notes for that sort of thing. So Pat, what do you use for note taking and keeping basic notes?
Okay, Apple Notes on my phone, I use it quite a bit, to jot down things like, what shows we're watching, where we are, what episodes, various different things like that, or things that I want to remember to do. Sometimes it's kind of a second to-do list. On a PC, I use WordPad and Notepad just when I'm local on that machine. But the nice thing about Apple Notes is it's on all my iOS devices. I want something, though, that goes between all my devices. And I haven't gotten anything really, really good, except I've just started using Obsidian. And that will go on a Mac, my phone, and a PC, and I can get to them from anywhere if you do the sync. I'm paying for the sync. So that's all of a sudden replaced a lot of things that I've been doing otherwise.
Yeah, it's actually, Obsidian's a real powerful tool. And I wasn't sure where to put it in our outline today, because it kind of fits. You can use it just as for taking notes. And it's also so powerful. You could do so much more as well. And it's kind of this weird category.
But I have to be able to get the stuff from a Mac and a PC, or from the web, or from my iPad. Mm-hmm. And that's a real difficult thing, because Apple Notes, I try running it out of the web browser, and boy, is it awfully slow to populate if I've got a large note section.
Right.
And so I gave up on that. And of course, the PC-based ones are only single machine. WordPad and Notepad, so they don't do me any good.
Right.
So, and I used to use Evernote, but that was more complicated for just note taking. It was a lot more overhead on me.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about Evernote and Obsidian, let's talk about this next category, which I've called knowledge managers and collaborative workspaces. And the reason I call it that is, it's sort of a new category where a lot of this stuff is showing up in there. I mean, we've used some of these tools for a long time, but the way we think about them and the way they've been developed has changed a little bit. So Obsidian, we've talked about it a lot. I love Obsidian. I use it sort of as a personal and work wiki where I keep all kinds of important, like I keep a daily journal of my work related things that I'm doing. I keep information on all of our sponsors and the information I need to keep on each show. And it's sort of it's a repository of all that sort of information. That's how I use it. And it will sync with your, like you mentioned, you can sync it on a phone and other devices. I use the free sync, but it's not great. I sometimes get conflicts because it has to update. It uses iCloud files, and it has to update the files as I'm opening it. And sometimes if the file doesn't exist yet, if it hasn't synced it down yet, it creates it again. So then I have 2 copies of the file. So that's kind of a pain. I'm hoping that they can improve that, and maybe the paid version of sync is what it would solve that for me. I should look into that.
I haven't had any problems with it yet, but you realize I've only been using it 3 or 4 weeks. So
yes.
So, but it's becoming my brain dump. If I do research or I do trying to figure out stuff, it's a good place. Oh, I saw an article about that the other day, so put it in there, and it's really been a help for me.
And it's great because, like, even though it's plain text files, some of the plugins that are for it, there's a data view plugin that allows you to really take this well beyond text files. I keep track of all the books I'm reading or have read or plan to read using the data view plugin, and it creates these really nice tables of data. I mean, it's really amazing. We have to do a show on it. I just have to do a show on this.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can embed PDFs and you can embed pictures and you can, there's a lot of things you can put in there that you wouldn't consider a note taking application to do.
Right.
But I'll have to admit, Apple Notes, you can get really nice formatted notes and you can scan into it.
Yes.
That's the other thing. You can use it as a scanner, and it does a really nice job of bringing in stuff that way.
Yeah. The best thing about Obsidian is that it's just text files. So even if Obsidian went away tomorrow, you'd have all of the text files on your desk, ready to bring into something else. So,
right.
So other ones that we could talk about are Notion, which is a collaborative workspace. And so there's 3 that I really want to mention: is Notion, Craft, and Roam Research. Notion is an all-in-one workspace where you can write, plan, collaborate, get organized. It has templates. It sort of merges notes, tasks, wikis, and databases. And it's a big tool, and it's very flexible and customizable, which may be one of its weaknesses because it can be intimidating, I think, for people who are just getting started. The other one is Craft, which is a Mac one. Craft's primary benefit is that it's beautiful. It looks good. It's well crafted, hence the name. It has great support for multimedia stuff, but it's Mac only, so that's one of the downsides. And then there's another one called Roam Research, which is really for they talk about assistive note-taking or networked thought, where it's all about making connections. So it's really a research tool where you use it to make connections between things. And so if you don't think in that format of like linking thoughts, then you may not, that may not work for you, that one. So, we've got someone joining us late to the program. Father Joseph Sund is here. Father, welcome to the program. And we've been talking about productivity apps. And right now we're talking about note-taking and knowledge manager and collaborative workspace apps. What do you think anything? Do you have a favorite note-taking or knowledge manager app?
Yeah, so note-taking wise, I would use Standard Notes usually. Found that a useful app.
What do you like about Standard Notes? That's one I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I think the main benefit for me is that it follows across all the platforms. So I'm able to use it on my Linux, Windows, Mac OS, iOS, all of those together. And so I find that helpful that I'm able to use all of those together.
And it looks like, looking at their site, it looks like it's end-to-end encrypted.
It is, yeah. So the privacy is a huge theme with them, end-to-end encryption.
Cool. And the pricing on it looks pretty good. There's a free version, which includes encryption, which is nice. And unlimited devices, that's also good. And then there's a couple other plans, $90 a year and $120 a year. Where you get a lot more. It looks like they have a web clipper in the $90 a year version, which is useful.
The $90 a year version, I think, can compete really with Evernote and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I use the free one, and I found that to be adequate for myself.
Cool. Pat, that sounds like it might be something to look at for you.
Yeah, I do, because I do all the platforms as well. And so I need something that I can just be wherever I am and pick up and continue working on something that I was on another device.
Yeah. Yeah. If I were doing more where I needed to collaborate, like I collaborate with people making podcasts, but I don't often need to be in a document with people. Like for us, Slack usually does the job, but if I needed more than that, if I had a team that I was working with, for say, of like employees, like editors and producers and that sort of stuff, Notion would be very attractive to me. I've looked at it several times. There's a lot there, and I've seen a lot. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos of people who are Notion fans, and I'm like, it's quite a tool. But I think I would end up spending more time getting the tool up and running at this point than it would have utility for me. So, and that's a danger with a lot of these things. It's fun to play with tools, but you really got to get your work done. So,
well, and I was thinking about Microsoft OneNote. I mean, that's definitely will go. I had forgotten about it, but yes, you can get to it through iOS, through a web browser, etc. I believe that there's an app on the in Microsoft Office that would go on the Mac as well, and of course it will go on iOS. I don't know about Android, but that's another possibility.
Okay. One thing I want to mention about Evernote. I've been an Evernote user for 15 years, and I've stuck with them through thick and thin. For me, Evernote has always been about an archive, a place to store things that I know I might want to get at again. But Evernote has changed over the years, and the people who make it have kind of shifted it into this collaborative workspace sort of idea. And they become much more about notes and calendars and tasks and projects and working with other people. And it really has kind of left me behind in that sense, especially when they went to a new platform architecture called Electron, which means they write the app once and it's supposed to run on all platforms. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's not. It doesn't work as great with Evernote because it breaks scripting, for one thing, which I used it a lot. But I kind of stuck with it because I had, I think, 40,000 notes in Evernote, and I just decided to cancel my subscription because the pricing went up and went way up. They has new owners, and I was paying 2 years ago. I was paying $44, I think, and I was grandfathered in under an older plan. Last year it went up to $70 something a year, and now they're talking about I think 140. I think it's either $130, $140.
I was going to say I was remembering 129.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah. And I'm in the boat of I don't have as many as you do, but trying to get them down into another format, I have spent a week, and every time I spend some time trying to do it, it fails along the way. And so I can back them up, but I really can't convert them. I'm just going to have to abandon that idea.
Well, I was able to convert by moving to a different Mac software called DevonThink. And DevonThink has an Evernote import ability. It doesn't look great, but it's usable now. At least it's all there now, which is fine. DevonThink is, you pay for it once and you own it until you want to update. Usually, that's the usual deal. And it's not cheap. It's $150, but that's not every year. That's just once, and then, whenever the next update is in a couple of years, I'll probably pay for that. But it does almost all the same things that Evernote did for me that I needed Evernote to do. Put it like that. The one thing it isn't as good at is the web clipping. That was always a big thing for me, was being able to clip articles from the web. Evernote was always good at that. DevonThink not so great, but I've figured some workarounds on that. So.
Yeah, on web clipping, what I've ended up doing is have a reader extension, or if I guess Safari has a built-in nice reader, but basically just go to the web page, go to the reader mode, copy and paste, and stick it into Obsidian, and that's been working pretty well because it carries forth the name and the URL and all that when I do that.
I usually what I've been doing with DevonThink is printing to PDF into DevonThink. That's my way of doing it. Father, what did you?
I was going to say, isn't there a good web clipping tool in Setup?
That I don't know. Let me see if
I haven't played with it, but I'm remembering one coming up.
Yeah, web clip. I don't know of one like it's just clipping it into someplace.
Yeah, that it allows you to do web clips.
Oh yeah, I don't. I quickly just looked in Setup for web clip and nothing came up. There is one called Lift, helps you turn web pages and apps into into full screen apps. That's not the same thing. I don't know. I have to look at that. I don't recall seeing one there. That would be useful if there was a tool for that. And of course we've mentioned before, I don't use it myself, but like Google Keep is another option for this. That's come up on the show before as well.
Yeah, I tried that for a couple of weeks and I decided again that was not what I needed. I'm sure it was good, but it didn't satisfy me somehow.
Yeah.
Google Keep's always been a glorified notepad. I haven't found it very helpful at times.
Right. I think it suffers from what a lot of Google apps end up suffering from is Google's has an idea and never really follows through on it. It makes it and then it lies fallow until someday Google decides to cut it loose.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like it was good for 2010.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
Yep. So those are our looks at productivity apps, our favorite productivity apps. And, we plus some others that are in the category. If you've got some favorites that you like that we haven't mentioned or anything you want to add to that, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at technology@sqpn.com, and we'd love to, read your feedback out on the show on an upcoming episode. So let us know what you think. So let's take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including John N., Tony L., Joe E., Stephen Y., and Timothy J. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StockWest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So let's talk about some headlines we got here. First one, this isn't exactly a new headline. This came out a little bit more than a month ago, but I thought it would be worth talking about in the era of AIs, the conversational AIs that we all have now, and the new fad of AI everything. There's been some industry leaders who have been cautioning us to slow down a bit. And there was an open letter signed by people like Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple, and others who are calling on these companies developing these AI language models to stop for now, like pause, hold on, because we're moving faster than we can figure things out. And yeah, in fact, they said like stop with GPT-4, which is OpenAI's latest large language model, and wait a bit until we can catch our breath in a sense. What did you think about this call for a pause? Does it matter? Is it useful? Or do you see the same concerns that they have? What do you think?
I guess I feel like, yeah, we need to stop and look at the implications and how do we do the protective things that we need to do to stop people just using it to plagiarize or to count on facts being there and they're not really facts. There were fiction that got pulled into the GPT conversation. I'm not sure I would go as far as to say it's as bad as a nuclear threat, like somebody said. But I think looking at it and saying let's go see where it's going right now, and let's as you say, catch your breath and investigate where it goes before we get so much dumped in there it's unmanageable and you can't pull it back.
Right. The specific concerns I mentioned is like the spread of misinformation, taking away jobs from people and automating people's jobs, and a risk of loss of control over civilization, which it seems like
that's
sci-fi.
A little bit much.
Yeah, that sounds like a sci-fi doomsday sort of thing. But on the other hand, Elon Musk is, trying to colonize Mars to save humanity. So,
Right. Yeah, we have to take that into consideration. Yes.
Right.
One thing that stands out for me is, if people who are goodwill put a pause to it, great. But as we're slowing down, not only does it allow Elon Musk and others who supposedly are trying to do good catch up, it also allows bad actors to catch up. So, China and Russia are behind this right now. Are we going to give them time to catch up as well and be bad actors? Or
are they going to pull ahead?
Yeah.
Are they going to just pull ahead instead?
Right. That's one of the concerns is like, in the hands of good people, the tool is fine, but in the hands of people with ill intent, then we start to worry at what these sorts of things can do. And so I'm not sure. I don't know that, the pausing of the development of the models would allow them, would give them any advantage per se. I think I'm worried about China and Russia with this stuff, regardless of whether we pause or not. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't think that on the writing of papers, plagiarism things, the AI is as far along as people are selling it to be.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable enough with it that I even sat down with my high schoolers and showed them what it could do, but also showed them how obvious it was, right? That if they use this, there's tools that are just as strong. For example, asking ChatGPT, did you write this?
Yes.
Or just looking at it and realizing that a human being does not sound that robotic and doesn't write with such perfect grammar that it's obviously a machine.
Well, the funny thing is then they have to sit down and rewrite it so it doesn't sound like the machine, in which case they're doing the work. So I'm happy to have them do the work. I mean, the concerns that they bring up are like we want to improve accuracy, safety, interpretability, transparency, and robustness. And these are interesting concerns because, as the more and more of these models come out, there's image generators and deep fake voice ones and deep fake video ones, and all of these different things are flying at us. And we just don't have time to think about them before the next one is here and the next potential problem. Like, oh, we have to worry about a fake video of the president, and we have to worry about fake audio of, the
Kidnap children.
Yeah, all these different things, and we don't have time to breathe. And I think that's the idea: is we need to slow down and let us catch up. Let regulators catch up. Because we need to figure out how to interface these things into our society. So, in that sense, I'm kind of okay with this call for let's take a pause and just take a breath and see where we are. So. All right, so that's our first headline. Our second headline, General Motors has announced that it plans to phase out support for Apple CarPlay in its electric vehicles in the near future, in favor of a new system that they're developing with Google. So CarPlay from Apple, Android Auto from Google are two ways that you can connect your phone to some models of modern cars, a lot of models of modern cars, that puts a modified interface from your phone onto the infotainment screen in your car and lets you do certain functions without having to look at your phone. Things like control podcasts, which is great, or do navigation. And this has been a big feature for a lot of people who've been buying cars in the past, say, 5 or 6 years. Most vehicles in this 5-year time period, I think, are all support both CarPlay and Android Auto. But so this seems like a big surprise from GM. And after this came out, Ford, meanwhile, came out and said, "Oh no, we're doubling down. We are totally on board with Apple CarPlay," which, that and $1.50 will get you a cup of coffee, as far as that'll go. They could then come out next year and say, we've changed our mind. But for the moment, they've seen an opportunity. Some people say, oh, it's about GM trying to get in on that sweet subscription money, where is if you're using their built-in system, then you're going to have to pay them to use it. Or they just don't like giving up control to the third party like Apple or Android. So what do y'all think of Google's plan, or General Motors plans, Google Motors plans to ditch CarPlay? Would it affect whether you buy a GM vehicle or not?
All of our vehicles are too old for CarPlay, so
I'm in the same boat.
I would love to have CarPlay available. I didn't like it that much when I used it on rental cars. It seemed to take over the functions where I wanted it to, shall we say, be a blend of what I wanted to do and what it wanted to do to me. But I just think they're going to antagonize a huge segment of the population if they say, we'll do Google, but we won't do CarPlay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, because they're instead of just going with Android Auto, they want to do some third thing that Google is developing with them, which to me sounds like we want to own it. Like, we'll pay Google to develop it, but we'll own it. And it really makes it car centric again. We're going back to the day like when everything is about the car, whereas everything I need is in my phone. And like, I've got an old enough Honda that it doesn't have CarPlay. It connects via Bluetooth, which is not great. And everything I want, navigation, audio, that sort of stuff, is in my phone. And I don't want the car to do any of that stuff. It does it all badly as it is. One of the big things too is cars update their software much less often, i.e. almost never, than phone OSs. So they're very slow to react.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of cars out there that I get into and the owner will tell me, yeah, I'm sorry, that place isn't on the map program yet because they're using this outdated software that they can't update.
Right. I mean, navigation software that doesn't have locations is worse than useless. Yeah.
Or it can't update itself. Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest benefit I find from having Apple CarPlay in my car, is just the availability of maps, especially being in very rural areas. Apple's maps and Google's maps and sometimes I have to switch between map apps based on where I am and the effectiveness of their routes. But at least I have options.
Right.
Usually in most of those, once you know the lay of the land, you're better than the GPS. But
Well, that's the one thing I don't have to worry about since I don't have a built-in system. I can use my phone for either Google Maps or Waze or Apple Maps. I mean, I've got flexibility, whereas you get something that's built into your car, you're stuck with that again.
Yeah. I wonder if people are as attached to car brands as they once were, too. I mean, I feel like the younger generation is much more attached to their phone brand than they are to their car brand. And it may be a case that people who are looking at vehicles, maybe not everyone, but enough will say, well, GM doesn't do CarPlay, so I'm just going to go look at Ford or Honda or whatever and go with that. It might be.
This might be General Motors overplaying their hand once again.
Yeah.
They
You may kick 'em.
recently overplayed their hand in the rural areas and lost a big amount. Chevy and GM lost a big amount of the rural area based on them announcing going electric vehicles a little too early.
All electric. Yeah.
So I think this is another episode of them overplaying their hand. And it'll be interesting to watch.
Yep. So our third headline is this a little bit of a caution to folks. Go and find out if you have an automatic door, a smart garage door opener, shall we say. Find out what brand it is. And if it's the Nex brand, NEXX, you may want to replace it. So there's this brand of Nex garage door openers, and they also have other things too, that some security researchers have found all use the same password unencrypted to communicate with their servers.
Oh, geez.
So it doesn't matter how secure you are in your home, the device itself communicates in the clear with a server somewhere on the internet, which means it is ridiculously easy for someone to break into to take control of your garage door opener, which is the door to your house, essentially.
Right.
This is just a terrible, terrible thing. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security has been trying to get a hold of this company as of when this article came out, and they were not responding. And so the security researcher said device owners should immediately unplug all Nex devices and create support tickets with the company requesting them to remediate the issue. So
wow.
Yeah, that it's
They're
not
probably in China.
Well, they're Texas based, actually, is what the article
Really?
says.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Wow.
I mean, they're probably manufactured in China like everything else, but yeah, the company is based out of Texas. It's not a huge company. They said that they estimate 40,000 devices are installed, which is it's not nothing, but it's not huge. So,
I'm wondering if they're using AWS or something like that. It's just a matter of time before, if Homeland Security needs that shut down, Amazon can do that for them.
Right. Right.
So it's a question, are they self-hosting? Are they AWS? If they're running their own server farm, I have even a bigger problem with the security of that.
Right. I mean, and it goes to a bigger question is like when you buy smart home devices, you really need to do your due diligence and make sure that they're not, exposing you to security dangers like this. And, these small companies, the no-name brands, like I will never buy a no-name brand camera or other home security device, door locks. I will only buy the name brands. I mean, that doesn't guarantee that they'll be perfect, but bigger companies have a lot more to lose and are much
more eyes on the product too.
Right. More scrutiny, and pay attention to these, the security researchers. God bless them for doing this and finding this out, because a lot of people would never have known this if they didn't. This is a big deal. And it's a small company in this case, but it's a big problem that needs to be dealt with. That's for sure.
I have a lot of smart home things in the house, but one place that I will not go is anything external to the house that allows access to the house. So we have a touch keypad that's old fashioned, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. Just not worth the risk.
Right. So, so those are our headlines, and let's move on to our picks of the week. And Pat, why don't you go first? What is your pick this week?
Well, when we had the LastPass debacle where they had the bad actors getting into their system, and a lot of people said, well, let's see how they handle it, and they kind of flubbed a little bit, but it was a very sophisticated hack. I'll have to admit, reading the stuff, it was like they weren't negligent to a huge degree and left the door open. They found somebody who was just really intent on getting in. So I ended up switching all of my stuff over to Dashlane and was plowing ahead with that and converted everything and have been using it. And so far it had been working pretty well. And then this last 2 weeks, it stopped filling in on Chrome. I could use it on Firefox. I could use it on Edge, but Chrome, I couldn't get it to fill in. And I removed all my other extensions and, reset the settings. And it's just it wasn't reliable for me, and I was getting frustrated. So I remember our discussion in which several people mentioned Bitwarden. So I said, what the heck? It's free. Let me try it. And it converted all my stuff. I've started using it. It's a little bit different in the way it fills in, but it's consistent and it works. And I'm happy with it, and it's syncing with my different devices. So I just wanted to say, just the free version is fine for what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I know that the paid version has other things like legacy and all that type of thing that would be nice to have too.
And the paid version is $10 a year, which is almost nothing.
Yeah. So and I probably will jump to that as soon as I've spent like 2 months with it.
Yes.
Then I'll think so right now I'm paying for it. I've got a paid subscription for Dashlane and for LastPass and for now I'm using this, but some of those are coming to an end on their subscription. So
okay,
I've used Bitwarden almost for 2 years now, and love it. And I'm the type that now that I am settled down in life and have a little bit of money to spare. I'm a priest. I'm not rolling in cash, but paying those open source software that I use, if I'm using them regularly, I do like to give a little bit of a kickback to the developers, as they're, usually a lot of them are some guy doing it as a hobby. Bitwarden is a company that's formed, but just to be able to support them in that, it's a good product.
The only thing that I found that it was a little bit uneasy for me was if you click the box that says keep me signed in for 2 weeks, it's really hard to get it to log out. I mean, it doesn't have a timeout. So I can't say close down Bitwarden when the browser closes, or it's basically... what it will do is it will give you a lock, which you have to enter a PIN to get back in.
Yep.
You can set it up that way, and that relieved my mind. But it was the first few times it was like, wait a minute, this thing is going away when I reboot or come back in. It's still there, it's still open. So that's just be tricky about that. Is mainly to watch that.
Yeah, the big benefit of the paid is the advanced two-factor authentication, in which right from your clipboard, you're able to put those 2FA pins in right away. And I've found that a lifesaver.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet. So that sounds like a good reason to go to the paid version too.
Nice. Excellent. Good choice. Father, what's your pick this week?
My pick of the week, on the note of us needing to slow down on AI, I'm heeding to Elon Musk's call, and I'm going to tell you guys all an AI site you can use for free. So there's a site called Tiny Wow, and not only is it AI tools, but there's also a lot of conversion tools for files and things that I found very useful as well. I believe that's kind of how the site started. And then they added the AI write things. And I believe they're using GPT-4 on theirs. And just some nice tools. I've used it a little bit as I'm preparing my lesson plans. For next year, I'm not letting it write all my lesson plans, don't worry. But sometimes as I'm saying, like, what is content that I should follow on teaching philosophical logic to high school seniors, right? And it will give an outline, and I can look at it versus my outline and go, oh, that's something I probably should have covered. And so it's helpful in that mind that it goes through and it's browsing the internet for other things, and something that I would normally probably do a Google search and see who else has put resources out there, right? The thing I wish it did was cite its sources to me.
That would be good.
Yeah.
But it's been helpful. I think with it, you still need to be an educated mind and only be using it as a suggestion and not a Control-C, Control-V thing.
Yeah. Right.
Well, who did I hear someone say, we should treat these things like an intern, so you tell it, hey, do this thing. And then if it was an intern, you wouldn't just turn around and put it in production or, send it out. You would check it and make sure it's got cited the sources, that it's correct, that they did the job right. And so, your AI stuff should be like an intern. I think it was MacBreak Weekly. I heard that.
One task I had it do that I was just overly impressed with was one of our units we do philosophical fallacies on. And I asked it to generate a table of the top 10 philosophical fallacies with definitions and examples of each. The examples that it came up with were, and it was with a bend towards high school seniors. And the examples it came up with were just spot on. And
Good.
it was kind of neat to see how that worked out.
So it looks to me, as I look through the site, what sets it apart is it breaks the tool down into easier chunks to use. So like if you go to Chat GPT, say, you can do all these things if you put the right prompt in. What they're doing here is sort of giving you the prompt. So you can click on all these buttons: essay writer, paragraph writer, podcast script writer, LinkedIn post generator, blog post ideas, and it's sort of giving you the prompt to get you started. And I think that's a nice element of it, because sometimes you just, with like the Chat GPT or some of the AI image generators, you see that blinking cursor, you don't know what you're supposed to say in order to get what you want, and that's the trick. I also like, I might be using this myself, because I often have to, when I'm making thumbnails for our podcast episodes, I need to get images from movies and TV shows, and I often end up with WebP file format, which I hate. It's not usable for anything. And I have to go find a JPEG converter or a PNG converter. Well, it's got one built in here. So, that sort of thing, it could be very useful. So I'm liking this, and it's free, right? It's
all free.
So it does make me wonder who's paying then.
I looked at their privacy policy. They do delete everything within an hour is their claim.
Okay.
So.
And it does say that they have ads to keep the content free.
Yep.
So there's ads in there somewhere.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
The one thing that I noticed, Dom, that might be a benefit to you is I'm trying to find it here. There's a specific one that works with SEO and metadata things that can write a good description for a podcast or a web page for you that can put those metadata things in for good hits.
Oh, good. Thanks. I'll have to check that out, because trying to get seen these days, that's always the trick.
Here it is. Meta description generator.
Meta description generator. Okay, great. That'll be very useful. Excellent.
Maybe I could ask it to come up with a script to convert all my Evernote files to oblivion.
That might be possible.
You could actually, I wonder if the GPT-4 could do it. That would be funny. If it's
would be, because there are some people that have, posted articles. As I say, I've gone down the rabbit trail on 3 of them, and one of them just stopped working, and the other one only converted like 4 files, and I have no idea why it wouldn't convert some of the others. So it's like, So
So, very good. Well, that's I'm going to spend some time on TinyWow. That's for sure. That's a good pick. This looks like a lot there. So, my pick this week is another piece of software from Objective-C, objective-see.org, a nonprofit 501c3 software-based foundation. This Patrick Wardle is a genius programmer who creates security software for Macs specifically, and he's got a whole bunch of different ones, and this one is called Oversight. And it what it does is it detects and stops Mac malware that will use your camera or microphone on your Mac in an undetected manner. And so, if it can get a hold of these, now it's really hard to get in control of Mac's camera or microphone, especially in a way that doesn't alert the user. The operating system has these built-in indicators, but sometimes those are pretty unobtrusive, and you might overlook it and whatnot. So this is just another layer of security, and basically what it does is it monitors your Mac's mic and webcam and alerts you when the internal mic is activated or whenever any process accesses the webcam, which, so you're going to Zoom somebody, you're going to FaceTime somebody, it will come up, you say, oh yeah, I know I'm doing that, allow. And 99% of the time, that's going to be what's going to happen. It's just that 1% where you're like, wait, I'm not asking it to be on a thing. Why that shouldn't be there. And that's when you hit block and then figure out what's accessing it. So it's just, and it's absolutely free. He does these things for free. He asks for people to support his nonprofit if you can, with a little bit of money to help him keep going. But in general, it's free. And so it's just another one of these great little tools for securing your Mac, which is a really great thing.
I'm wondering if there is I'm going to check that out on my Mac, but I'm wondering if there's an alternative to that on the Windows side on these.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more of commercial security software on Windows than there is on the Mac, which is why I'm so glad to see that this guy, Patrick Wardle, is doing all this for free. So it is nice to see, that's for sure. All right. So that does it. Those are our picks. And that does it for our discussion this week. We'd love to hear what you thought of anything we talked about this time. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or the StarQuest Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC211. Be sure to write a review of the show in Apple Podcasts or any podcast directory that likes to write reviews or rate shows. That's a big deal for us. It helps a lot. Every review, every rating really helps us get in front of more people. And, especially when you share the podcast with your friends. If you like the show, please share it with others. Help them get the same benefit that you do from the show. Until next time, Father Joseph Sund, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Glad to.
Pat Scott, thank you as well.
Looking forward to next time.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.